Welcome to Classes of Mail. Before you listen, you should know that Alan Gigax is not in any sense an official spokesman for the post office, the NALC, or anybody else. His opinions are inherently his own and should probably be disregarded. Same for his guests. Any information you hear on this podcast could be wrong and should not be relied upon for any reason. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Classes of Mail. My name is Alan Gigax, and I recently had visitors. My branch had visitors from the CLC, the Concerned Letter Carriers, which of course, as you know from listening to the show, is a movement that I absolutely support. It is a reform movement of candidates for national office in the NALC, and they're out campaigning. And so they've been going to all these different branches, and they came to my branch. And so before we get too deep into what their message was and what they talked about, and I'm going to play you some of that message, I want to talk about what it was like for me to have these people who I've been supporting, who I've been working with to some extent, come to my branch. If you've listened to many episodes of Classes of Mail, you know that I'm an outsider within my own branch because I'm reform-minded, because I want the branch to follow its own bylaws. And you guys know those stories. And so it was this amazing thing to have these people come in, Howard Komine, Corey Walton, and James Henry. And like as soon as they come in, it's, hey, there's Alan. Hi, Alan. You know, good to see you. And on a personal level, that was so special for me to have that moment that, like, man, I really am taking part in this movement. And it was such a cool feeling because, again, you guys know, if you've been listening to Classes of Mail, I dread going to my union meetings. Sometimes I have to be talked into it. Michael has to call and tell me why it's so important, or our other advocate Leslie's like, you have to be there. And they're right. And so I wind up going, but like, I will feel sick to my stomach, before I head down to the branch meeting. But this is one that I was actually looking forward to. And man, I cannot wait to see these guys. And before the meeting, I went and met up with Howard Komine in his hotel room and was able to interview him there. And that went fantastic. And that will be airing in another week or so. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to fit in, but you guys can look forward to hearing that. It's a very good interview. And just like with David Grosskopf, I popped Howard Komine's cherry. This was the first podcast interview he had ever done, and he did great. So anyway, the branch business starts, and there's the regular first business that we have to attend to. There was actually an appeal that's going to be going up to the National Committee on Appeals, not one of my appeals this time. And James Henry, to his credit, actually just stepped outside for that because he's on the Committee on Appeals, and that didn't want any questions of any impropriety. And so the appeal was read, and then it's time to introduce these people. And what I want to focus on here is what James Henry had to say, because he's the one who's running for president, and he is the spiritual leader, I guess, of the CLC, the practical leader. And I found it so impressive. But before that, I got one more little personal anecdote from this. When Corey Walton got up to speak, I don't know how many of you guys are Dungeons and Dragons players, but I'm going to use an analogy from Dungeons and Dragons, which is when someone is talking to you in Dungeons and Dragons, when like the dungeon master is speaking as another character and they're telling you something, you can roll what's called an insight check. And depending on how well you do on your insight check, you can tell whether that person is trying to deceive you or not. And it's very useful. And, I've been listening to Corey from the beginning, but to have him there in person, there's something different about it. There's some more information that you get from having that person right in front of you. And I felt like I got that opportunity to roll the insight check and see, like, is this guy the real deal? Does he really believe the things that he's saying? And maybe I failed my insight roll. That's the problem, is you don't actually see what comes up on that die. But I'll tell you, and everything that I can see, that guy's a true believer, and that he really does love light blue. He really does love carriers, and he absolutely is going to fight for carriers. That's the takeaway that I got from Corey. But again, the focus of this is James Henry because, guys, I'm like you. I listen to other postal podcasts. I've had James Henry on this podcast, and there is this narrative about James Henry or a concern that he's tired, that, it's kind of the Sleepy Joe type of criticism, that his eyes are closed and he's looking down and he doesn't really bring it. And I got to tell you guys, at this branch meeting, the dude brought it. That guy came with such fantastic energy and enthusiasm and really came off as a leader and an inspiring leader. And I'm talking to the people next to me and I'm like, dude, people need to see this side of James Henry. People need to see why folks believe in him, why the folks who are close to him are throwing all in with James Henry. And so after the meeting was all done, I got in touch with Howard Komine because he was recording James Henry's speech. And I'm like, dude, can I get the audio from that speech? Because I want to talk about it on Classes of Mail. And yeah, of course, they were happy to give that to me. And so I have that audio. The speech is 18 minutes. And guys, if you don't have the opportunity to have the CLC people come to your branch, maybe you're in too small of a branch, or maybe you're in a status quo branch where they're not going to bring these people out. If you don't have that opportunity, then give it a listen here, or even if you do, because maybe you'll hear something different. But guys, I really want you to give this a listen so that you can hear why people believe in James Henry. So I may pause this from time to time to comment on the things that he's saying, maybe give a little context, but let me go ahead and get started. The audio starts a little bit rough because the room hadn't quieted down yet. So here we go.
Calling out people names and you miss certain people, whatever. But there's just been so much love and so much.
Because he knew you would be there for him.
Yeah.
All right, so already people are chit-chatting, and that's the way it goes. The woman's voice who you just heard, that's Leslie. She's been on Classes of Mail before, and she is one of Michael's and my strongest supporters. She's a reformer, and she's amazing. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back into it.
I just say care that's been bestowed upon me over the decades coming here. And just for those of you that have just now first met me or heard my name but may not have met me, I've come around for a long time. Not just when there's an election like now. I've done station visits. I've been out there with Nancy. I've been out there with Mike, Richie. I've been in those stations, just to do stations.
He says, I've been out there with Mike, and Michael brazenly is convinced that he was talking about him, and that's probably true. Michael has worked hand in hand with James Henry. All right, I'm sorry. I'm going to try to stop interrupting.
Visits, over the years, and come down here on multiple Saturdays. When Loretta sends a letter over to the NBA office, I would like to do shop stewards training. Can you make it? You ain't said nothing but a word. What time? And we're there. And we've come and have always been here for you, just like you have been here for us in terms of our collective love for this union and for one another. And one of the side benefits that I've had in most recent years is that anybody that knows me knows that my vice in life is sweets. And I've come here, and I have to give a shout out to Lenan back there, who often, because my man Paul will pick me up at the airport without fail, and he's normally come bearing gifts with a little goodie bag of cookies, or we had the cake over here today, so thank you so very much for that. Now, I need for you to understand something here, is that I'm not running for national president because I have some grandiose idea or for prestige or because I have this desire for power. What I am running for president for is because I often said, when you see something that is wrong and you don't stand up for right, you're as wrong as the wrong itself. Amen. And the thing is here is that the way things have been going here over the last couple of years, I've had the ability to have a micro look at it. You know, when you're out in the field, you have a macro. You're only able to see what people present to you when they come in front of you at the branches or events. And that necessarily doesn't tell the tale. And if there's anything that was an exhibit A for you to determine if Medicarians' interests have been looked out for, and particularly in regards to their standard of living, look no further than the most recent TA. That was overwhelmingly rejected by the letter carrier craft by 71%. But yet, our leader decided somehow that it still was going to get implemented. Now you'll hear the story about an arbitrator rendered award. The arbitrator states right there in the award itself that it was a mediation. It was basically seeming like a foregone conclusion that what we got is what we was going to get at any given time, simply because we didn't have the fortitude to stand up and say, hey, letter carriers deserve more than what they're getting. Now, when you're in church, people know me, I often refer to my faith. And what is so common about faith when you are saying a prayer, what do people say at the end of the prayer? Amen. They say amen, right? They say amen because amen means so be it. When the preacher says something that they agree with, what do they say? Amen. Amen. So if I say something that you agree with here, so be it. Amen. All right. Hey, let's test that theory out here. Letter carriers deserve to be the industry leaders when it comes to wages, benefits, and working conditions. Amen. Let me hear you say it. Amen. When it comes to letter carriers, we deserve higher pay. Amen. Do letter carriers deserve full colas? Amen. In addition to having full colas, does letter carriers deserve to have an affordable health care? Amen. Do letter carriers deserve to reach higher, the top step in a shorter period of time? Amen. In addition to that, does letter carriers deserve to be in a position that they are treated with dignity and respect? Amen. Now the reality of it is here, those things that are seemingly the most important to letter carriers at this particular point in time, because in the reality, approximately 5 to 10% of letter carriers file grievances. That is super important because that's what we do as a union, to get you from hire date to retire date. But what affects letter carriers on a daily basis is what? Your pay. Having a living wage. It is our responsibility, and particularly the president of the union, to make sure, to the extent that they can, that you have a standard of living that is commensurate with the devotion and with the level of efforts and work that you do. It was stated earlier about whatever happens, I'm talking about whatever calamities happen in this nation, what happens? Who's first on the scene? Letter carriers, right? So with that being said, we have to make sure that you are being compensated accordingly. And what will not happen, as me being a president of this great union, is that I will not do like some have done here most recent, travel the country, spend 700 days trying to explain to you why the Postal Service can't pay you what you deserve. Amen. That should not happen, should it? No. What you will not have is me telling you that this is all that I can do. This is the best that I can do. What will happen here is that when we go in there and we demand that letter carriers be the industry leader when it comes to wages, benefits, and working conditions, and the Postal Service somehow in their mind wants to articulate that they're going to reject that thought, then we'll say what? We'll throw the deuces up at them. Peace out. We'll see you in arbitration. Deuces. Because guess what? Any and everything that you are deserving of, we're going to fight for it. One thing that you will never get out of the Henry Walton slate, is excuses. I'm not saying that we can guarantee you that we'll get you everything that it is that you're asking for, but what I can guarantee you, that it will not be due to lack of trying. That's what it will not be. It will not be due to lack of trying. The thing is here, is that we have to understand what our responsibilities are. Have a sense of duty, meaning leadership. My first and foremost responsibility and obligation is to look out for your welfare. I've stated before, I retired from the Marine Corps. And it does not matter whether when you come into the military, whether or not that you end up having what's called an MOS, a military occupational skill, whether or not you are a cook, whether or not you are a medical doctor, whether or not you are a motor transport mechanic, whether or not you're a supply personnel. Everyone goes to boot camp. Why? That's considered basic training. You have to learn how to shoot that rifle. You have to learn how to march, because guess what? At your very core of a military personnel, you are a rifleman. Your first and foremost responsibility is to the defense of this country. What am I saying here? Our first and foremost responsibility to the letter carriers is to make sure that you're taken care of. It does not matter whether or not you're the president of Branch 2502. It does not matter whether or not you are a shop steward over in Branch 4. It matters not if you're the national VP like myself. It matters not if you are the national president. What matters at your core, you are a representative, and your responsibility is to look out for the best interests of the people that you are serving.
Amen.
That's right.
And that's what we need to keep in mind. Is that we're in a position of service. We're in a position to make sure that your interest is taken care of. That you're able to get from hire date to retirement date. That you're able to put food on your table, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head. And that starts with making sure that you have a living wage. In no universe should we wake up and go out to In-N-Out and they're making $20+ an hour. No disrespect from our brothers and sisters that's in the food industry, but they're not letter carriers. They're not getting chased by dogs. They're not getting accosted for their keys. They're not getting talked to like they got a tail on the workroom floor. From the one-day CCA to the 40+ year letter carrier, everyone should be taken care of. We should have a starting wage that will make sure and ensure that letter carriers, when they come in, are secure and willing and able to take care of their business on a daily basis. We should be making sure that you are able to have money in your pockets when you come in the door, all the way through the time that you decide to retire. Because guess what? I got monthly bills. I ain't got yearly bills.
Come on now. Amen.
When it comes down to it, we have failed in making sure that our letter carriers have gotten what they're supposed to get. We have lagged behind. When I first started with the Postal Service, there was only about an $8,000 difference between the bottom step and the top step. It was like step A to step O. Now, if you think I'm kidding, look at the pay chart. There's a $30,000 difference between those that start and the ones that are at the top now.
Right.
And the thing is that we talk about an injury to one is an injury to all. Our brothers and sisters that are at the bottom should get taken care. They don't pay abbreviated dues. Those CCAs do the same job as career letter carriers. And those that have devoted their life to delivering mail in this job deserve to be taken care of as well. In addition to our retirees who should know once they retire that they have a secure salary coming in.
And it is so.
I often talk about our mentality and our responsibility, like I told you, as a representative because that's what I consider myself and that's what I am. And everyone understand this, I am no better than any of you out there. I put my pants on one leg at a time just like you do. I'm just blessed to be in a position of influence. But the reality of it is here is that we have to make sure that we look out for one another. We have to make sure that our craft is properly compensated. And we want to do that by way of ensuring that we get to arbitration when it's supposed to be. Now, hey, it's not as simple as some people may think with regards to putting up the fight that is necessary. Because we will cooperate, but we will never capitulate. We will never give in. We'll never bow or bend to management's will. We will make sure that letter carriers' voices are heard in every instance. Right now, what was it, last Wednesday, we had opening ceremonies for the collective bargaining agreement. And they've started the discussions. From all what I can tell right now, no one is doing the negotiating once again, far as the economics is concerned, except for the president.
Oh, no.
And the executive vice president is doing the work rules. The inclusiveness of the entire board, or the officers there, to make sure that we have an informed opinion, because they represent people from the entire country, the entire letter carrier craft. How can you be effective if you're not informed? This is one thing that you will make sure that we'll make sure that happens. We will make sure that you are updated. We'll make sure that you've got the information that you need, and we will be receptive to the information that is coming forward to us. Because it's not my will that needs to be done, but that of the letter carriers.
All right now.
And I'm going to tell you, brothers and sisters, is that the next 5 months between now and nominations is going to be a very trying time for the letter carrier craft and for our slave. Why is that? Because the letter carrier craft, so many of you guys are clamoring, and the letter carrier craft is anxious about change. And I believe, without equivocation, that the concerned letter carriers of CLC, that we represent that change. Because we are about the letter carrier craft. That is our chief concern. You're the one that get up, dress up, and show up every morning and deliver that mail. You're the ones that are the union, not me. And we got to make sure that the people that are representing your interests understand that. And that is my mindset. That is my heart condition. And all that is associated with me with this concern that it cares is ensuring that your interest is met. So when it comes down to it, like I said, we will cooperate, but we will not capitulate. If they're not giving us what we need and what we're demanding that we believe that we deserve, then guess what? Like I said, we'll throw the deuces up at them and say we'll see you in arbitration. And we'll keep that process going. And there are some that say, well, what did arbitration do for us this past time? It's not necessarily the system, but the application of the system. You have to have people that are willing to put up the fight. And you see my right-hand man, Corey, ain't no short on any kind of fight. And those that are in are on our slate. Likewise, Howard, Kamitra, Cruz, and Bill Kriebel, and a whole host of them. Dave Grossbaum, I have a whole slate. If you have not known, go on our concernedlettercarriers.com website and you'll see and get acquainted with them. But I tell you, brothers and sisters, my heart is with you, and I'm going to ensure that we do everything that we can to ensure that you have a living wage, that you're not equivalent to a fast food worker making $20-some an hour, that you are not in a situation of having to work into your 70s or whatever time that you desire to work before because you can't afford to retire. And that you cannot get what we call the union wage, 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours of recreation. Because you have to work a whole bunch of inordinate amount of hours just to make ends meet. That should not be the case. Like I said, letter carriers are our chief concern. And if you get nothing else out of tonight, I want you to remember this phrase, is that we will not only fight for you, but we'll fight with you. Take care. God bless.
All right, there it is. That is James Henry bringing the fire, bringing the heat, bringing that enthusiasm that I think is sometimes missing on the podcast episodes. And, you know, it's just a different environment. And so this is what he brought to my branch. And there's a couple of things that he talked about that I want to take a second to emphasize. One is that he talks about his position as a position of service and a position of opportunity. And that's what we need leaders, you know, to look like. That when you become a steward, it's not that when you become a steward, you become the servant to the other people in your branch, that you were there to help those other people. And, you know, to me, that mentality is really important. That's clearly something that we don't have in Brian Renfro. You know, he's somebody who thinks that he's above the people in the union. And a perfect example of that is happening right now as I record this. It's Saturday, March 7th, I think. And there was a resolution passed at the last convention that said once negotiations open for our new contract, which we're in right now, that on the first Friday and third Friday of every month on the website, there will be updates to how the negotiations are going or what's going on. And we just had yesterday the first Friday of negotiations, first Friday of the month, and Renfro didn't do it. And it goes to show you what he thinks about the will of the members. The people who show up at that convention are supposed to be the supreme body in the union, and they set the rules. They are the boss of Brian Renfro. But just like with open bargaining after the last convention, when he never released the details of the bargaining, here he is at his first opportunity telling us again that we can go fuck ourselves. And that's got to stop. That ends with the CLC. That ends in the upcoming election. And so that's my take on that. One more thing on a very personal note that I want to share with you guys, because I know a lot of you people out there like pull for me and what's going on in my branch and shit. And so when Corey was up there talking, and I don't have the audio of Corey's speech, because if you want to hear him fired up, you can hear that every week from 8 Arbitration. But he was talking about his podcast, and then he referenced me, and he's like, yeah, we got Alan over here who he knows the difficulty and the struggle, you know, putting out your own podcast. And this guy is one of the greatest educators in the NALC. And I know Corey uses a lot of hyperbole, but it felt so good to have him say that. And like on one side of him is my branch president who fired me from being a Carrier Academy instructor. And on the other side is the goodest, oldest boy. And you know, all of that. And to have him stand up there and give me that compliment, it was so validating, you know, that I'm putting in this effort and that it is being seen and that it's being appreciated. And the same goes for the emails that I get from you guys and the kind messages on Facebook and wherever. Guys, it really means the world to me. My love language is words of praise. It's also physical touch. I don't need that from you guys, but it meant a ton. In that time and place, it was really phenomenal. So anyway, that was the branch meeting. That was the CLC coming in and giving their speeches. So again, in a few days or a week or whenever I'm going to release it, look out for that episode from Howard Komine. And in the meantime, that's all I have, guys. Thank you very much for listening, and I will catch you all next time.